I've been interviewing a number of people from this area about growing up in South County, and it's for an oral history project that we're working on. What was South County like back in the day? Let me start with one question. I know that you were a child here in this area, and then you moved to New Haven as a teenager, right?
Yes.
And
So
you
I
came-
moved when I was 12. So
Okay.
I attended Wakefield School from kindergarten to fourth grade. And then at that time, Hazard School was our middle school. And I attended the fifth grade, and then we moved to New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay. Okay. And then about how old were you when you moved back, and how old were your children?
I was 26 years old. My daughter was 8. My son was 6.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
What were or were your favorite memories of growing up as a child here in South County?
Let's see. Old Mountain Field, going to camp, Old Mountain Field,
Good.
Village Green,
Okay.
going to the Narragansett Beach, a lot of playing in the woods with my cousins. I lived on Willard Avenue. My cousins lived on High Street, and my aunts and uncles lived on Kenwood. So it was a complete circle. So we used to ride bikes, play in the barn, just, normal growing up and outside playing. And that's about it. Family,
Good.
lots of family.
Good.
Church. My dad, very Christian family, Christian oriented. And we went to church, a lot of vacation Bible school, Sunday school, youth meetings, camp, basically it.
Great. Great. One thing I'm curious about, as far as you know, did the Guild offer classes while you were growing up, or you may not know about that part?
I don't remember. I participated in the Brownies, but that was associated with school.
Okay.
I think the Guild did have like basketball. I remember they had little activities that you could participate and go in after school programs. But I think my brother might have played basketball and stuff there.
Okay. Do you have memories of that time that were more challenging?
Not really. It was just kind of like a free type of feeling, safe feeling. I didn't really feel any challenges until I got into fifth grade with this teacher. And that's when color became an issue. And I realized, okay, yeah, I'm different. I'm a different color, but I didn't feel that until I was in like fifth grade.
Okay. Was your teacher discouraging? What were some of the issues?
We had a report to do. I think it was the end of the year type of report we had to do on our background. And, growing up in school, there was only like me or one other person of color, but it was predominantly just Caucasian. And at this time in the fifth grade, it was me and my cousin. And we had to do something on our background. And our teacher told us that we didn't have a background, that we didn't come from anywhere, that we needed to join in with somebody else. And I was always like kind of obsessed with France. So there was a girl in my classroom named Marie Claire Cornelian, and I joined with her to do the report on France. And I don't remember what my cousin did.
Okay. Okay. And that wasn't unusual back in the day at all. Okay. And how was New Haven different?
Culture shock. Totally, totally different. I lived in what you would call the Wild Wild West. Right across the street from my church was the projects. Right in back of the church was the parsonage where we lived. Totally, totally, totally different. It's was kind of scary in the beginning. And I also, with my peers, wasn't Black enough. To them, I talked white. I ate white people's food. I mean, this is what was said to me. I was going into middle school. I was sixth grade. I went to Susan and Sheridan Middle School. It was a huge school. It was as big as a South Kingstown High School. High school, there was one white person in the whole high school. Very segregated, very different. Beliefs were different. Things they were interested in was different from what I participated in South Kingstown High School, South Kingstown community.
Okay, so major culture shock. Was there anything about your experience in New Haven that was positive as a teenager or middle school student?
It's awakening. It's kind of like experiencing the difference between growing up in South Kingstown and then the experiences in New Haven was a little bit different because there was a lot of gangs, there was a lot of drugs, it was just fast. It was fast. You know, and my parents tried to protect me as much as they could. But also, you know, I was curious. So it was growing up fast. But one of the things that was very different in high school was they really pushed, you have to be good, you have to work harder if you're going to make it.
Good.
You know, they always said, you know, you could have the same degree as a person who's white, but you're going to have to work 20 times harder. They really, really pushed that. One of the things that I enjoyed was just meeting different cultures. Like there are Latinos, Jamaicans, Nigerians, Dominicans, and it was interesting learning and getting to know, you know, different cultures, because in Rhode Island and South Kingston, we didn't have that at all. It was just you, and that was it. There was nothing interesting about you. You're just brown, and that's it.
Wow. Yeah, they thought there was nothing interesting about you. Yeah. Okay. So were there any other advanced circumstances of people that either discourage you or encourage you in any way in either place?
In New Haven, you didn't have Caucasian friends. Like where I lived, you didn't see that. You didn't see white women or white men. Once in a while, you would see a white person come into the community that kind of wanted to like speak Ebonics and was cool and, you know, thought they were kind of like, well, I grew up in a Black area, so I'm now African-American and it's okay for me. But you didn't see that. So when I moved back to Rhode Island, it was kind of like, it was like, okay. It was just so hard adjusting again. Just
you went through culture shock and reverse in a way.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because then I just didn't feel like I fit in South Kingstown at all.
Right.
They were just kind of on some other level here. So I don't know. I just kind of feel like people of color here are conditioned and they're fine with it.
Right. Okay. What individual or individuals have had the greatest impact on you, and why is this so?
In New Haven, South Kingstown?
Either place.
Okay, growing up in South Kingstown, it would be my church family.
Okay.
My dad, my mother, my brother, I have aunts and uncles. I don't really, let me go back. There was a reading teacher, because I struggled with reading. Her name was Mrs. Sherman. And she really, in Mary Rice, They really
Yes,
pushed me, they pushed me, was, very positive, helped me through. They impacted my life. So I enjoyed that, and having that extra help and feeling like they cared.
that's so important.
hmm hmm
Yep, definitely, definitely. Okay, and did you find that this area had changed in any way since you left, as far as you could tell?
Definitely. It's
Okay.
no longer familiar to me. Like I said, when I was growing up, when I was younger, it was just a lot of family around us, even, friends that we went to school. You knew where everybody lived, everybody knew you. But coming back here, I kind of wanted to recreate what I felt, what I experienced with my kids. And when we came back, it wasn't the same. I didn't
Wow.
really know anybody. Um, it had changed. It really had changed.
Can you elaborate a little more on how things had changed?
Um, I kind of thought like, okay, growing up in New Haven, you walked into a bank, you saw an African American person. You went into school. My teachers, majority of my teachers were African American, police officers, five and dime store. They were all people you could identify with. Um, when I came back, we didn't see that. And that was
Right.
one of the things that I said is, how are my children going to be successful when you don't even see an African American person owning a home in this area? There's no firemen, there's no teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had a principal and he was gone because he had an allergy to peanut butter and asked that there was no peanut butter in the school, and the parents got upset about it or something like that, I believe. And he was no longer there. They got rid of him. So I had an issue. I had an issue with that.
Right. So how has it been raising your children here, both advantages and disadvantages?
Um, I think if they were raised in New Haven, they would kind of be a little bit more streetwise. I do ask them many times, are you happy that we did move and I raised you here? And they said yes. I mean, they have their pros and cons. I think what they missed is just the foundation of being proud of themselves and having people to look up to, positive people to look up to that represented who they are.
Yes,
That was
that's
missing.
important. Okay.
And so um, I don't know. There was just certain things that I witnessed that I wasn't happy with, especially in the structure of schooling and how they were learning and the things that they talked about, and how it impacted them later on. Like my son definitely struggled a lot in school, and he was told, you're better off just dropping out.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's pretty bad.
And, we went to counseling, we did all that. And they had, tell us a good experience about being in school. And he said, I don't have one good experience, not one.
Wow.
He did drop out in 11th grade and he struggles. He struggles. I mean, every week I was getting a phone call. He skipped class. He never showed up. And instead of, oh, he's in detention, Instead of that, they didn't ask, what can we do? What changes can we make to kind of get him back on track again? It was never there. Apology was given for saying, you're better off dropping out. They didn't care. As
Wow.
long as your child can sit at the desk and do the work, you're fine in South Kingstown. As soon as you have a child that needs a little bit more attention, they're not there. They don't support.
At all.
So
Wow.
that really kind of bothered me. I mean, yeah, my son had some mental health issues, but if somebody stopped and said, you know what, I care.
It would have helped.
Yeah. Cap Smith, before he got sick, did a lot for Christopher, for my son, but the school didn't care.
Wow.
Mm.
And how is your daughter doing?
I have two daughters.
Two daughters. I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't know.
Candace went to the American Musical Dramatic Academy in Manhattan.
All right.
She did really good. She was also like a track star. And that was one of the things that she said to me, was that track kept her focus.
Good.
So she's doing good. She'll be Friday interviewing for NBC. So hopefully,
wow. Okay.
Hopefully this fruitates for her and it works out. Christopher is doing lawn care.
Lawn care. Okay.
Yeah, so he's doing something productive.
Okay, that's good.
And my daughter Sade, who's graduating from South Kingstown School next month.
Okay.
And she's excited and ready to get out of there.
Okay. So, is she planning to go to college or to do something else?
She wants to something in communications.
Good.
So
good.
For right now, we're going to do probably the 2-year at CCRI and then kind of direct her out.
Right.
So she's excited about that.
Right. Right. And you were talking about your son being in landscape management. And I think, I may not be right about this, but I think at one time, Rhode Island, U.R.I. had like a major in that, in landscape, development. And I'm not sure whether that's still there or not, but I thought I'd share that information.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think UNH has some programs that are relative to that too.
Okay.
University of New Hampshire. So just, thought I'd share that.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And I remember Candace, and I remember your son, but your daughter was born after, when I was no longer going to First Church. So,
yeah.
Okay. The second daughter, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're with your father, which is a blessing.
Yes.
And I knew your mother too. What do you remember about both your parents, your grandparents, and other older people that you know? Did they pass on stories to you?
Did they tell me stories, or do I have stories of just growing up and?
Both.
Dad worked at the Narragansett Electric Company growing up, and my mom basically was like at home. A lot of gardening. I can remember helping. I used to hate it, but helping my mom out in the garden. My mom was very, very hands-on. If she was cooking or baking something from scratch, I had little tin things, and she would give me extra dough, and I would help her with that. Sewing. Just very, very hands-on, very loving, very, very, very protective, very comforting, very spiritual.
Yes.
And my dad worked a lot, but he was there also just guiding, directing, very loving, both of them very interacting. And it's a blessing that I had both of my parents that participated in raising both of us and loved us.
Right.
Yeah. The church played a huge role in that.
Okay.
Very structured, church every Sunday, camp, just a very, the church was primarily our family members and such a huge family. So it was just like a big gathering of just cousins and aunts and uncles and just love, lots of love.
That's the big thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you have memories of other older people when you were growing up?
I remember going to my Uncle George, who was the chief sachem growing up for the Narragansett Indians. And I remember going there and learning how to play the violin. So he was teaching me how to play, and I could remember the smell of, he always used to smoke a pipe. Just very calm, very quiet man. And I would go maybe twice a week, and we would do violin, practice violin. A short, what is her name? Mrs. Evans would teach me how to do crocheting.
Okay, Bernice Evans.
Bernice Evans, crocheting.
Yes, okay.
And piano. I was just like a flighty. I would be in and out, in and out, in and out. At that time, I think it would, now it would be considered ADHD, but I would stick with something and then I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore and do something else, So, but looking back at all the things that, I was exposed to and I was able to participate in, it was a good thing. That experiences.
And you mentioned the whole family feeling you had as a child, mm-hmm. Before you came back. Has that dissipated? Have people moved out? What has
people
happened?
Have moved on? People are busy. People are just trying to work, and we're not as close as we used to be. There is a huge difference. It's huge difference.
Wow.
It's almost like hurts. It hurts to see that we're not as close as we used to. Just very kind of like everybody's off and doing their own thing, or they moved, they have children or grandchildren and, busy in their careers and things like that. So, the older people kind of kept things in place.
Right.
We tend to always want to focus on young youth. That's not where it's at. It's the older groups that have the knowledge. It's the older groups that know more, that are able to guide us. And I don't feel like we have that anymore.
Wow. And then the existence of the two churches, would that have added to it too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I understand why. I understand, as time goes by, people want different things, or looking for different things and searching for different things, and doesn't always work. And, so sometimes separation is best.
Right. Okay. And did anybody tell you any stories about the past, either positive or negative, or?
Stories of just old stories, like how I don't know if it was a great uncle, it was my dad's uncle, and how he was blind and his horse would bring him to the mill every day and bring him back to the mill. Growing up, like, because my dad's dad died when he was very young. Yes. And my dad kind of took on the role of, working before school, helping out. Stories of how my dad invited the whole class for his birthday, and my grandmother did not set up anything for his birthday, and the whole class came. Just,
things like
old,
that.
Old stories, siblings,
A lot of family things.
A lot of family stories.
Right. Well, and I have to say, I remember, and you were talking about your mother being hands-on. I remember how she did gardening, and she did a lot of crafts. And I worked with her. I attended First Church in the 90s, and I was working with your mother in Vacation Bible School, and she was a very good teacher. So that was something. And I remember the elders from that time, and they were fantastic.
Oh yeah, one of the things about my mom, and I used to hate it, but I appreciate it now. We didn't have the TV on. We did not have the TV on. I think there were certain shows I could watch, and at a certain time, very limited. Everything was blocks, crayons, outside, drawing. Like, it was always use your imagination. My mom was always use your imagination. we're not going to sit in front of a TV. And I loved going to other people's houses because all they did was like watch TV, and we could not do that. So my mom was always about, you know, let's do this, let's experience this, taste this. You know, she was an excellent, excellent, excellent mother, excellent mother. And, you know, I miss her. I really do miss her. So.
Okay. I can't think of anything else. Can you think of anything else that you'd like to share? You have?
Well, when I moved back from, it was in 1999, from New Haven, I was a Head Start teacher. So I was hired at Kane Child Development.
Yes.
I was a preschool teacher there for about 5 years.
Okay.
After I got married and I had Sade, my last child, I ended up going to the local scallop shell, and I wanted to find a job where basically I could be home during the day and work in the evening. I ended up getting a CNA license, worked in a couple of nursing homes. And then I decided to didn't like the nursing home setup. So I decided to kind of like step out and try to do home care. So the interesting thing about that, I got hired and I ended up having this one case for about 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
And with me, I'm like always like, I don't like sitting still. I don't want to sit in front of a TV. My hours were in the evening. I don't want to watch TV. So I ended up like going online and going to Colorado Tech, and I got my associate's degree in business.
All right.
And I was like, okay, you got your associate's degree in business. What are you going to do? And during this time, the case, I really could not be physically inside of a building because I was totally in charge of the care for this lady. So if somebody that I hired didn't show up, I would have to, it was my responsibility to go in and cover that shift.
Right.
So I ended up looking at Ashford University, and I did, got my bachelor's in gerontology.
All right.
Healthcare administration. So after the healthcare administration, obviously for the state, you would have to go ahead and, you know, take a test, an exam. And this brought me from 2011 all the way to 2017. And I was like, with school, I'm burnt out. Let me stop. So with that being said, I went to different places, was hired in different homes to set up care and, you know, just manage it. And I loved it. Loved it. But I also felt like I wanted to have this experience inside of an institution. So one thing you know about working with older people, they're not here forever. So you're constantly looking for a job. And so I really kind of wanted to kind of dip my feet into a nursing home environment, or a, you know, an aging community environment, and see if I could get hired as a gerontologist. Well, with that being said,
no luck at all.
No luck at all. But they were women in working in these companies that were going for their gerontology degree, mandated, but I wasn't hired.
Wow.
I was told, we're hiring for dietary, get your feet in the door. Okay, so working in a kitchen was okay, but working in gerontology or as a social worker or even in activities as a gerontologist, they didn't hire me. So I was very, 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 very hurt and disappointed. Even after like having to pick up a part-time job, I went into a local nursing home as a dietary aide, and the girls were like, oh, they're putting me through school to be a gerontologist, to get my gerontology certification.
Wow.
So I said, interesting. Very interesting. I said, you're looking for that, you want that, but you're not going to hire me.
Wow.
Who had not only just over 20 years of experience, but also holds the degree. And that
Wow.
was in South Kingstown. And still goes on, still going on.
Wow.
And I wanted to say, you are hiring for somebody to do activities, but you hired me for dietary.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say why, but I already know why.
They wanted to keep you in the kitchen.
I already know why. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
It was so easy to get hired in a home and do home care than it would be for me to get hired as a gerontologist in a nursing facility or a hospital.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I don't know whether the job market is any better in Providence, even though that would be quite a commute, I imagine.
But even with that being said, it's like, yeah, I could probably go to Providence and find a job in gerontology, maybe not. But it just, it was difficult for me to understand why they wouldn't hire me. If you're looking for somebody, why would you hire somebody that doesn't have the degree? Or why am I being interviewed? And how many times have I been interviewed with people saying, wow, you have a higher degree than I do? And I'm going at entry level.
So you have the qualifications and they don't want to touch you.
Mm-hmm. And I could never forget this one moment when I was working dietary at this nursing home, and the staff were talking to the residents. It's like, oh, let's put this bib on you, and I'm like, oh, no, we don't call it bibs. We call it clothes protectors. Like there was just so many things that I would experience or see. And I'm like, you're in this level of, this is your job and you don't know this stuff. But yet I didn't get hired. So it's kind of discerning and discouraging. And it kind of made me step back a bit and just get tired of it. I'm just like, I'm done. I went to school for what?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of work still to be done in this area. That's for sure.
I don't believe that it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that at the point right now, because I think they're afraid of that. They're afraid. And I think they're going to do everything they can in their power to keep that. And one of the starts is just the living, being able to afford to live here. Like, I have lived in the same place for over 11 years. My house was sold 4 different times in the 11 years that I lived there. And the last time that it went up to the market, somebody bought it and wanted to move in. So my family was forced out. I couldn't find anything that was affordable in this area. And that's what they want. They want a certain economic group of people here.
Oh, they do.
I really believe that. And they make it very, very, very difficult for anybody. I mean, you have to work 2 or 3 jobs to be able to support yourself living in this town. And so
wow. So it sounds tough. It's really tough. Wow. Anyway, can you think of anything else, or do you have any other questions? Any other thoughts? But that is big, having the qualifications and not being able to get a job in the area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I was fortunate in the sense that the reason I'm here, I got a job at U.R.I. and I had a boss who got me in, and that's how I got here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely not from here. That's one thing. And when my mother was dying, my brother came back. He was living out in Reno, and he came home, and he was going to move home to help out with my mother, right?
Mhm.
And what happened? He looked for work around here and couldn't get anything. And then what was interesting, he went to Providence to look for work. And they said, and when they found out that he was living in South County, they told him, why don't you go back to South County where you come from? And apparently during colonial times, that's what happened to Blacks and Indians, whatever. If you were born in Narragansett, but you ended up working in Warwick and you got old and infirm and needed help or you died,
Right.
Narragansett had to take care of you, and they had that whole system. So when they said that to my brother, I was saying to him, it sounds like that whole system never left, never
No.
ended. Yeah. So, and I think it's important because, you know, people of color in this town are invisible. I think it's time for people to be aware of, you know, both the good situations and the bad situations. So anyway, I thank you very, very much for agreeing to interview.
Mhm.
Thank
you. Thank you for
me.
having me. And I'm sure my daughter would have a different experience. She's now 30. She had a way different experience. My daughter Sade had a totally different experience in high school, South Kingstown High School. And it was interesting because they sent us a parents survey.
Okay.
That was basically based on education, feeling safe, and bullying, and just things that needed to be changed in the school structure. So I was like, you know what?
That's good to know.
My daughter took a Black experience class, and why is her teacher white?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The teacher cannot relate to anything that a African American goes through. So I don't know if it was me, but it is now canceled until they do some more research on having that class.
Okay.
My daughter is very fair skinned. Her father is Latino. For the last 3 years of high school, she was considered white.
Interesting.
They had her white. My daughter's white.
Wow.
You know, they ask questions, you know, and I talk to my daughter a lot just about how the kids in the class will just say the N-word and not feel like it's offensive or it's okay, it's acceptable. And, you know, I said, well, do you say anything? And she says, you know, I just give them a stare. I just kind of give them a stare.
Wow. And don't forget that the mascot of the school is the rebel.
Yeah.
The Southern Rebel.
Mm-hmm. I think I was voiced my opinion many times about this when my 2 older children went to high school, where they had underclassmen by the seniors, and they would have to do whatever they asked them to do for the day. What does that represent?
Mm-hmm.
I think they just stopped doing that 3 years ago.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So reliving slavery, and this area was where the plantations were. So there is a history of that, but it's like this area is just recently that they've given up on some of the history.
Yeah.
Maybe. Wow. And I remember in the 90s, I was active in the South County Coalition Against Racism, and the woman who founded it was a retired teacher from the high school, and they were constantly dealing with what was going on at the high school and in the school system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wow.
It's definitely geared towards, you know, Caucasian people whose parents are lawyers and doctors and professors, and it is. And it's even cliquey, like the kids that parents are like that hang together, and then low income children hang together. It's very, very, very kind of segregated in a way.
Wow.
And that was the difference. The difference that I can see between growing up in New Haven. It was proud to be who you are, proud of your color, you're strong, letting us know, what are they so fearful of? What do you think they're so fearful of? They're fearful because of how strong and intelligent you are and how creative you are.
Right.
Where here, you didn't have that. You didn't have that type of support about being proud of who you are, or, my daughter being very fair skinned with curly hair. And then like, Mom, can you straighten my hair so I can look like everybody? Or I don't have blue eyes and blonde hair. That's acceptable here. Where, in New Haven, it was like, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. Love who you are. This is who you are. Look up your culture and see all of the wonderful things that make you. And those are the things that was told to us.
Wow.
And being in school, like working in the worst areas of New Haven, Connecticut, very, very, very poor. You still had a strong sense of, I love me,
Yes. There were things.
accept me for me,
Yes.
whereas in Rhode Island, you just kind of more conditioned, like, okay, you walk into a restaurant and you're the only person of color sitting there and the eyes are on you, or, you're walking into the store, eyes are on you. It's just two different lives. And I just always feel like Rhode Island is la la land. It's not reality. When you walk out of Rhode Island, it's a different world. It's a different world. And I think they try to keep it in this bubble and what they want it to be. And that's why I feel it's like it's going to be very difficult for change here.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, Susan, I thank you very, very much. This was quite an interview, and I learned a lot. And it sounds like it may be, worth our while to talk to your two daughters, both to Candace and to your younger daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly to get their opinion of what it's been like to grow up in this area.
Okay.
So, wow. Okay. I think that's it. And thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. That was very thought-provoking, and I agree with Donna. I think to get a younger person's perspective too would really help round out between you and your dad. And
yeah, my dad's stories are experience are totally different from our experiences. And I think that having the opportunity to grow up in New Haven and then come back, that is when I saw the difference.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you were just here, you'd have nothing else to compare it to. But having been elsewhere, it makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I may be getting in touch with you, about maybe talking to your two daughters, to
Candace really wanted to. She really wanted to participate. She took my dad to a funeral in Providence.
Right.
But she really has a lot to say.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll be in touch with you about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.